to them, I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
Love them or loathe them, these musicians have sparked some of the biggest controversies in music history. These 25 musicians have earned their spot on the most hated list for some jaw-dropping reasons. Ready to find out why? Let's dive in. 25. Grace Jones. Grace Jones has been courting controversy for over 40 years. The disco queen was known for acting like royalty, with a very long list of backstage demands wherever she performed. This included champagne, wine, and a dozen Findleclair or Colchester oysters to accommodate her dressing room. She is also a character well known for her controversial moments, as well as her television appearance on the Russell Hardy show she is renowned for. She has a lifetime ban from the Walt Disney World in Florida due to indecently exposing her breasts on a live set while she was performing. 24. Frank Zappa. Since Zappa refused to conform to the music industry, this made it near impossible for others to collaborate with the artist. In his documentary on the singer, director Alex Winters revealed how Zappa avoided making a commercial hit. Known for being an outspoken misanthrope, Frank Zappa drew the ire of many in his time. From slamming politicians to criticizing a range of his most prominent peers in the music industry, the American musician was not just a master of experimentalism, but damning criticism too. While this blunt and often highly critical character was something that he turned on himself and the array of musicians that helped bring his vivid sonic vision to life, he yielded the most damage when he turned his heat vision on others outside of his immediate sphere. From maintaining that he preferred the manufactured band The Monkees over the Beatles, to generally resenting other British outfits who rose in their wake, the list of musicians Zappa took issue with is a long one. While these critiques offer insight into the complex machinations of one of the greatest musical minds of the contemporary era, they would also divide opinion from other musicians, who were primed and ready to offer a hefty reply. Yet, it wasn't only his personality that they would hate. Some would also seek to undo what they perceived as his pretentious nonsense and attack the apparent flaws in his creative formula. It's only fair that someone so critical should get a taste of their own medicine. Although he probably didn't give a hoot about what other people had to say, some of those who explicitly hated Zappa were well within their right to do so. 23. Sid Barrett. The psychedelic lead guitarist and songwriter of Pink Floyd used LSD as the gateway to his musical creativity. But it was this tactic that led him down a self-destructive path and no longer a band member of the famous rock band. Known as Pink Floyd's Crazy Diamond and its tragic frontman, Sid Barrett considered himself an artist first and only secondly a musician. But discussions of Barrett never occur without allusions to his mental illness and abrupt departure from the band. And throughout his career in the music industry, people rarely engaged with Barrett as an artist post-Pink Floyd. His two significant yet underrated solo albums and his output as a painter, the art form in which he began his career and to which he returned to for the last 30 years of his life. 22. Ozzy Osbourne. In the rock world, Black Sabbath's Ozzy Osbourne is as notorious as it comes, making him hard to work with on more than one occasion. During a meeting with a record label, he bit the head off of a dove, and his drug problems played a role in his getting kicked out of his band. The lead singer of Black Sabbath was kicked out of the band on multiple occasions for his spontaneous disappearances involving drugs and alcohol. Ozzy had been fired as the lead singer after being given so many chances by his bandmates. "We just couldn't continue with Ozzy," guitarist Tony Iommi said. "As much as everyone wanted us to, we just couldn't do it. Nothing was happening, and it would have meant the end of the band. We didn't want to fire him, but we had to if we wanted to continue." 21. Vinnie Vincent. The guitarist joined Kiss in 1982 as Ankh Warrior, but he was quick to clash with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. This soon led Vinnie to sue the two for royalties. The lawsuit was unsuccessful, and the guitarist was kicked out of the band. Vinnie joined Kiss back in 1982 as the Ankh Warrior, but was released 2 years later due to conflict with Gene and Paul. This resulted in Vinnie suing the two for royalties. This lawsuit was unsuccessful. Many years have passed since this, but Gene Simmons was recently asked about the possibility of working with Vinnie again in an interview with the Aquarian. Here is what he had to say. He's a very talented guy. Everybody's got his or her troubles in life. You can't fix everything. I'm a big supporter of his talent. You know, go with God, enjoy life, be happy. But I don't need more dark clouds in my life. When asked about his current band members, Eric and Tommy have been with us for a very long time, and it's professional to the highest degree. Everybody is happy to be together. Everybody shows up on time. There's no, the dog ate my homework. None of that crap. When you use drugs and alcohol and other things, it's everybody else's fault. You're always the victim. You never take charge of your situation, and I'm sick of it. I don't tolerate any of that. I won't have any of those losers around in my life. These are certainly harsh words from Gene, so as it stands, we shouldn't be expecting a unifying of Gene and Vinnie anytime soon. But who knows what the future holds? Stranger things have happened in the world of rock and roll. 20. Richie Sambora. 2013 was quite a controversial year for John Bon Jovi. Sambora, lead guitarist and one of the band's main songwriters, was dismissed for missing too much work. In another interview, Bon Jovi said that Richie's choices have led him astray. Then, to add to the drama and mystery, Sambora suggested that he'd been unhappy with the way the group was run for decades. I thought we should have made more strides to become a band. It was going towards John being the front guy and nothing else. 19. Mariah Carey. She doesn't have a diva reputation for nothing. She once admitted that she's high maintenance and proved it when she joined The House. Her co-star, Rob Hubel, began by sharing with SiriusXM's Entertainment Weekly Radio that Carey was once 4 hours late to set. She then reportedly refused to sing a song she was hired for. It did not go well, he said. It was bananas. They also said that she requested specific items for her trailer, such as all white roses. Fair or not, Mariah Carey is a poster person for people who are hard to work with and easy to hate. 18. Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons wears many hats: shock rocker, pioneer, womanizer, narcissist. There's a lot to unpack. As a hard rocker, it's probably fair to have expected Gene Simmons to be all over the place in more ways than one. But when even your bandmates call you an a-hole and a sex addict, it's clear the work situation isn't ideal. If you had a dime for each of the offensive things Simmons had said over the years, you'd probably have enough money to file as many trademarks as the rock god, 182 if anyone's counting. Kiss fans aren't the only ones who have trouble reconciling with Simmons' behavior. His son, Nick Simmons, penned a piece for Vice describing Gene as full of crap. Kiss fans would argue that Simmons' acid tongue and unyielding ego are wholly part of his charm. Is an ego unwarranted after having to fight for every ounce of success and achieving it to a ludicrous degree, including the sale of ridiculous merchandise? Simmons pushed through bad reviews, years of seeing his peers succumb to drug and alcohol addiction, and more than enough rejections to cause a normal person to give up long before he did. For all the offensive Simmons quotes out there, there is something inspiring in his steadfastness and blunt, unfiltered way of saying what he feels. Despite his many offenses, Kiss fans managed to somehow look past Simmons' behavior in favor of rocking and rolling every night and partying every day. 17. Mick Fleetwood. Mick became so addicted to substances that his bandmates found him impossible to work with. To this day, he claims to be unable to remember 2 whole years of his life. Supposedly, if you lined up all the substances Mick has done, it would reach over 7 miles long. Fleetwood likes to project himself as the barking mad Englishman banging the skins, and he plays the role well. but Machiavelli lurks inside the Mad Hatter. 16. Eric Clapton. Many consider Eric Clapton to be one of, if not the greatest guitar player to ever live. Clapton has made several racist utterances over the years, causing many musicians to steer clear of the legendary picker altogether. Clapton was and is a great guitarist, and by all appearances seemed to be a humble, generous ambassador for the black music that he championed. But appearances can be deceiving. Throughout this year, bits and pieces of Clapton's dark side have been emerging. He came out as an anti-vaxxer along with Van Morrison. At least we already knew he was a jerk. Old racist comments surfaced, along with his cringe-inducing, "I apologize but not really" reactions. Clapton's racist outbursts, focusing especially on a drunken rant he delivered at a Birmingham concert in 1976, during which he offered up some vile racial slurs and spoke favorably of a British politician named Enoch Powell, described in the article as the George Wallace of the UK. Over the years, Clapton has repeatedly apologized and blamed it on the booze. He has also repeatedly said it was no big deal and that he continues to think it was funny. Clapton has also admitted to raping his wife in the 1970s, back when he had serious alcohol and heroin addictions. That's not an excuse. It's just evidence of how low he had sunk. 15. Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious was a founding member of the Sex Pistols, one of the most influential and important bands in the history of punk music. Sid Vicious is as famous for his drug use and outlandish behavior as his membership in the group. His over-the-top antics included violence, extreme and constant drug use, self-mutilation, and the abuse of both animals and people. Outside of his theatrics and over-the-top lifestyle, Sid Vicious was also known for being utterly incapable of playing his bass. However, despite not knowing how to play the bass, he most certainly knew how to swing it, especially at people. Vicious erupted into a fit of rage at a rancher who egged him on to violence and swung his 10-pound bass guitar directly at the rancher named Fulton. Luckily, Vicious missed Fulton and only grazed a nearby roadie who was attempting to hold back the worked-up crowd. He is also rumored to have killed his then-girlfriend Nancy Spungen in a fugue state. He died of an overdose shortly thereafter while waiting for his trial. The iconic figure of Sid Vicious is a tough one to shake. He is the archetypal punk poster boy, and if you follow the genre for a prolonged period of time, then chances are you've mimicked his spiky hair, or worn his chain necklace, or donned his leather-jacketed sneer. But while we can all play dress up and enjoy the aggressive nature of the music, Vicious is a villain. He was nothing but a serial violent offender who just so happened to be in one of punk's pioneering bands, unable to play, unable to contribute, and unable to control himself. 14. David Crosby. Many believe the former frontman of the Byrds, Crosby, Stills, and Nash to be one of the most difficult people in the industry. In 2019, David took part in a documentary film called Remember My Name, which discusses his ornery lifestyle. By all accounts, including his own, David Crosby could be a tricky and difficult character. His career was regularly punctuated by angry arguments, bitter fallings out, sackings, and general discord. Joni Mitchell once waspishly suggested he was a human hater. His former bandmate Roger McGuinn described his behavior while a member of the Byrds as that of a little Hitler. Perhaps the best way to describe him was mercurial. He could be utterly charming and mischievously funny. Fans gave him the affectionate nickname, the Old Gray Cat, and incredibly generous to other musicians. Mitchell, among others, owed him a great deal. He could also be impossible, overbearing, mouthy, convinced of his own brilliance. 13. Glenn Frey. I love the Eagles probably more than the next person, so it really stings me to learn that deep down, they weren't always nice guys. Lead singer-guitarist Glenn Frey once threatened to break a bottle over guitarist Don Felder's head while on stage. He's also the reason that bassist Randy Meisner quit the band. While not overtly rude, Frye was known for being ambitious and a perfectionist. He reportedly had clashes with bandmates, particularly Don Felder. This behind-the-scenes tension might contribute to a perception of difficulty. 12. Liam and Noel Gallagher. After breaking out in 1994 with their seismic debut album, Definitely Maybe, Oasis joined the likes of Blur, Suede, and Pulp in the so-called Britpop movement. In a trashy echo of the 1960s British invasion rivalries, Oasis began to feud petulantly with their key Britpop rivals, Blur. This PR war would reach a head during a 1996 charity football match, during which Liam Gallagher and Damon Albarn squared off like sparring stags. Beyond this most memorable duel, Oasis made a habit of evoking criticism from their musical peers through the 1990s. Their objection to Radiohead's somewhat moody antidote to Britpop stirred up similar flurries of resentment. On top of Britpop spats and violent threats to aging rock stars, Oasis also caused a stir with the pop singer Robbie Williams. Although the Gallagher brothers allegedly partied with the former Take That singer at Glastonbury 1995, relations between the two acts had spiraled by the turn of the century. This feud reached an infamous head during the Q Awards in 2000, but has continued for over 2 decades. Reflecting on his incendiary relationship with Liam Gallagher in a 2022 interview with Apple Music's Zane Lowe, Williams admitted that he liked Oasis's music, but couldn't forgive their bullying nature. Ultimately, I'm a huge fan of Oasis, and always was, he said. I was there, and I was part of it, and it was fucking unbelievable. Incredible hedonism, reckless abandon, and rock and roll, and let's turn it to 11, 12, and let's see where this goes. It's part of that competitive nature in me too. Also, they were gigantic bullies to the whole industry, everybody in it, and I didn't like that, Williams added. A lot of that still remains inside me. They're probably different people now, but there's a lot of me that's like, they're fucking bullies, them. I don't like bullies. 11. Paula Abdul. If you ever wondered why Paula left American Idol, it was rumored to be because she was asking for a hefty raise on top of her already $3.5 million salary. Then, when she was on X Factor, she refused to pay the 10% standard of most agencies for her commission on the show. During season 7, Paula flubbed on air, critiquing a Jason Castro performance that hadn't happened yet. The aftermath involved speculation ranging from pill popping to judge rigging. Her foray into unscripted reality TV is the biggest mistake she's ever made professionally. Hey Paula was intended to paint Paula in a new light, as a brainy businesswoman. Sadly, it only served to highlight her histrionics and meltdowns. Although there were fountains of tears throughout the show's all too short 7 episodes, one quote stands out as the show's best, saddest, least self-aware. Quote, "I'm tired of people not treating me like the gift that I am," end quote, Paula said. So for all these reasons and countless others, American Idol without Paula Abdul will be a much less fun, yet probably more coherent place without her. 10. Jack White. Jack has been known to frequently have difficult moments while performing on stage. Like during a New York show where he left 55 minutes into a Radio City Music Hall performance. This left the audience in anger and confusion. Jack White is objectively the worst thing to happen to rock and roll ever. He's both an avatar and a catalyst of everything wrong with the kitschy, ironic, self-aware, and self-referential rock and roll bands that have cropped up since the turn of the century. 9. Iggy Pop. There is extreme, there is legendary, and then there is Iggy Pop. Beginning in his earliest days with the Stooges taunting Ann Arbor frat boys and small-town Michigan folk, Iggy made an art of excess, self-mutilation, self-exposure, and self-destruction. His risky theatricality required an audience to respond, participate, or get the heck out of there. You might want to wear a full hazmat suit to watch Iggy Pop perform live. The singer was notoriously known for gross behaviors, including vomiting on the audience. He would also cut himself with broken glass. In the past, Iggy's mid-concert antics made him the type of act you'd think would be difficult to ensure. As a foundational force in punk rock, this type of stuff comes with the territory, and we should maybe even be grateful for it. But this guy was all over the place in the workspace, and the sex and violence hardly stopped after the show was over. 8. Don Henley. If you were making a list of the biggest expletives in rock music, Don Henley would easily crack the top. The co-founding member of the Eagles is known for being a control freak, as well as verbally abusive and intimidating toward his bandmates. And the guy just always looks so bitter and angry for somebody who is worth millions upon millions of dollars. He is often considered as being the main member responsible for Don Felder's ousting, even more so than Glenn Frey. Felder wrote about the situation in his book about his time with the Eagles. 7. Roger Waters. Pink Floyd accomplished a lot during their run, but things didn't always go so smoothly behind the scenes. Lead singer Roger Waters was noted for exercising disproportionate control over the crew, leading to conflict at various points at pivotal moments of their career. With too many cooks in the kitchen, this soon led to feuds between him and his bandmates Richard Wright and David Gilmour. The drummer and founder of the band, Nick Mason, once explained the feud. He said that Roger felt writing is everything, and that guitar playing and the singing are something that, I think the problem is Roger doesn't really respect David. Waters famously left Pink Floyd in 1985 and sued the remaining 3 members for continuing to use the name without him, but he lost. Waters, Gilmour, Richard Wright, and Nick Mason last reunited as Pink Floyd to play Bob Geldof's Live 8 benefit concert in 2005. In a 5-minute video shared on his official Twitter page, Waters says, "1.5 million of you have viewed our new version of Mother, which is lovely. It really warms my heart. But it does bring up the question, why is this video not available on a website that calls itself the Pink Floyd website?" The 76-year-old musician goes on, "Well, the answer to that is because nothing from me is on the website. I am banned by David Gilmour from the website." 6. David Ruffin. David Ruffin's vocals were unquestioned, but midway through his run with the Temptations, he was showing up late to rehearsals and showing some signs of being a bad teammate. After a while, he even refused to travel with the group, arguing that his name should be added to the front of their name. He demanded certain privileges not afforded to the other members of the group and wanted the group's name to be changed to David Ruffin and the Temptations, as had been done with Diana Ross and the Supremes. He was officially deemed out of control, and the band fired him in June 1968. 5. Madonna. By her own accounts, Madonna can be difficult to work with. Her dancers faced that reality as they dealt with her perfectionist tendencies while rehearsing for her Rebel Heart tour. "She knows who's slacking. You want to work hard for her," one of her dancers told People a little over 6 years ago. Working with Madonna ended up being more of a nightmare than a dream for a group of dancers in 1994. They sued the singer over allegedly lying over the purpose of the footage she had gathered of them during her Blonde Ambition tour. They eventually settled out of court in their invasion of privacy lawsuit against the pop singer and actress. "We could have settled this thing without 2.5 years of litigation and the related expense if Madonna had just recognized that dancers have rights too," said Deborah Johnson, a lawyer for the dancers. 4. John Frusciante. John Frusciante is best known as being the lead guitarist as well as a co-founding member in the alt-funk rock band the Red Hot Chili Peppers. During the 90s, John's substance use became too much for his bandmates to bear, and he was asked to leave the band. Dave Lee, the former guitar tech of John Frusciante during his RHCP days, recently talked about what made the guitarist so difficult as a person. Lee told JF Effects, "John is a very kind person with a very big heart. Having said that, at times he could be difficult. He gets frustrated easily and becomes overwhelmed sometimes. He's very emotional, and his mood can be switched by the slightest thing. So I would say, as much as I love him as a person, I found it best to try to keep our relationship more a working relationship rather than a friendship. 3. Dave Mustaine. Dave Mustaine is the founder of the thrash metal band Megadeth and was also the original lead guitarist for Metallica. He was kicked out of the latter band because of his overabundant drug use and his predilection for alcohol. How do you get kicked out of a band for being a wild drunk when that very same band would give itself the nickname Alcoholica? For Metallica's original lead guitarist, Dave Mustaine, the problem wasn't the quantity that he was consuming, it was how the booze affected him when he was hammered. His bandmates, James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, and Cliff Burton, were loud and stupid when they drank, but they were mischievous and not malicious. Mustaine, on the other hand, could become volatile and unhinged after he'd had a few. When you're around a lot of people that like to drink and get silly, they just want to have fun, Mustaine explains. I would drink and have fun until someone would refute something I had said. And then that was war, baby. I'd be aggressive and confrontational because I was a violent drunk. I lost all inhibitions when I was drinking, and that didn't go over too well in the end. The end came on April 11th, 1983, and for Mustaine it came without warning. Metallica had already hired Kirk Hammett as their new lead guitarist. At around 9 a.m. that morning, Hetfield, Ulrich, and Burton woke up Mustaine, who was suffering from an ugly hangover, and told him he was out of the band. 2. Billy Joe Armstrong. Billy Joe Armstrong claims to be all about the punk rock lifestyle. Yet more often than not, he ends up acting like a total diva. He threw a fit during the iHeartRadio Music Festival after Green Day's performance was cut off early to allow Usher additional stage time, which they didn't think to tell the Bay Area rockers about prior to giving them a 1-minute warning to leave the stage. The Green Day man then proceeded to smash up his guitar, which got a raucous reception from the audience, who shared his anger about their set ending so prematurely. Armstrong's reaction was pure, unadulterated rock and roll, and gave the event a much-needed dosage of unpredictability, with his bandmate Mike Dint even getting in on the action by smashing his bass in an act of solidarity. His overreaction to having his set cut was erratic and worried his bandmates, who saw it as a sign that Armstrong needed help. He was medicating himself at the time with a mix of prescription pills, which he washed down with alcohol, and it had quickly spiraled out of control. He even told Rolling Stone some years later that his backpack at the time sounded like a giant baby rattle because of all of the pills. 1. Marilyn Manson. You gotta give the devil his due. This Grammy winner was a breath of fresh air when he came out in the mid-90s. Manson is single-handedly responsible for reintroducing the Gothic concept to metal that decade. A unique vocalist, a dark songwriter, and an all-around scary guy with cool moments, like guest starring on Eastbound and Down, he's also the highest-selling heavy metal artist. Why do we hate him? He truly does almost embody the spirit of the devil. He shocked everyone by calling himself an antichrist. Many people also blame his lyrics for the incident at Columbine. Other than having the brain of the devil, he also comes across as pretentious, and he had an affair with barely legal actress Evan Rachel Wood while married to burlesque queen Dita Von Teese. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this list, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Don't forget to check out our other videos for more juicy music scandals and top lists. See you in the next one.